Good afternoon, everyone. Country Flyboy here, and today we're doing the traffic pattern. We're here at Alma, Bacon County Airfield, Alma, Georgia, and we're going to do the traffic pattern. The winds favor runway 15 right now, but the AI is doing something peculiar. I've seen two planes, there's one on final now, come in for runway 33, and there's another one that's coming in for runway 15. He's over here somewhere.
Alma traffic small. November 693 Echo is 4 miles southeast inbound visual runway 33.
Yeah, see, he's landing 33, and that Cessna over there, he came in and landed 33. I think it's their own instrument flight plans, and they're just doing a visual approach to 33. There's a Cessna over there who's about 7 miles out, and he's coming in for the straight M15. I don't know what's going on with the AI.
Traffic mall, November 477 Mike Charlie is clear of the runway.
Because even if he is coming in runway 33 on an instrument approach, he would need to circle to 15 with the way the winds are. The winds are pretty decent right now, and they favor 15. He's going to be landing with a serious tailwind and crosswind. Okay, so we're going to talk.
Traffic, Cessna, November 351.
I'm going to shut them up for a second. We're going to talk traffic patterns. So the first thing we need to know is the legs of the traffic pattern, and they are, if I switch to cross or top down and make this aircraft oriented, and they are the upwind leg. So we'll take off 15, and the upwind leg is from wheels up to the turn onto crosswind leg. Then we have crosswind leg is where we are flying perpendicular to the runway. And then crosswind connects to downwind, where we fly parallel to the runway, opposite the landing direction. Alright, and then base leg is the opposite of crosswind, perpendicular to the runway, but opposite direction. And then final is the last stretch, where we're parallel to the runway on the landing direction, and we're landing. Okay, so let's talk altitude real quick, because a lot of this has to do with altitude more so than anything else. Field elevation here at Alma is 200 feet, or around about so. You want to round the field elevation up to the height, to the next or closest 100 feet of altitude. So it's 200 feet here, pretty much even. It's actually around 210, but we can round that down to 200 feet. If it was 250 or higher, we would round that up to 300 feet. But it's 200, so next we want to add 500 feet, which would be 700 feet on the altimeter. That is the 500 feet above field elevation altitude. That's the lowest altitude you want to start your turns at. So you want to fly crosswind until you're upwind until you're 500 feet above the field, then turn onto crosswind. So no turns below 700 feet MSL. Or 500 feet above the field. The next, you want to add 300 feet to that to get 700 feet above the field. Or, sorry, 200 feet above that. You want 700 feet above the field elevation. And for us, that will be 900 feet. That Maul has landed. 900 feet MSL. That is your safety altitude. When you're climbing out on the upwind leg, if your engine quits and you are below 700 feet above field elevation, which is safety altitude, then you cannot make it back to the runway if the engine quit. You have to pick a spot straight ahead and land there. Now we're out in farm country, so we shouldn't have too much of a problem finding a landing area should the engine die. But yeah, 700 feet above the field elevation or higher, your chances of making it back to the runway are higher. This is assuming that you maintain VY throughout the climb out, and that you turned at 500 feet above the field elevation. Okay, and the next one is traffic pattern altitude, which is simple, just 1,000 feet above field elevation. A note on that, some airports might have a published traffic pattern altitude. Brunswick, Georgia, Brunswick Golden Isles Airport is like this. Its published traffic pattern altitude is 1,000 feet for all aircraft unless you're a jet, and then it's 1,500 feet. And yes, jets can fly the traffic pattern too. Bit harder, but they can do it. Alright, that Maul's coming in. I'm going to taxi us out. And we'll select runway 15 for takeoff and announce taxi.
Traffic, Cessna, November 906 Charlie Sierra is taxiing to runway 15.
Alright, he turns in. He's still a good ways out. Now, I've actually already done engine run up and all that fun stuff. So as I taxi us out, we'll talk a bit when we get in the air. And I'm just going to do a few laps around the pattern and explain things as we go. I've actually already done a few practice laps to get with the feel for the winds. Let's see. We probably could take off. Yeah, we'll hold for him. We probably could. Yeah, he's a mile out. Yeah, we could take off in this time. But we'll hold for him just to get the aircraft set up. Full rich. Landing. Strobe that to altitude. We could take off in the amount of time as far out as he is, but we'll hold for him. Now, I'm going to set my heading. Okay, my heading bug is set to roughly where the wind direction is coming from, and it's blowing at about 10 knots, so we do have a pretty decent crosswind right now. In fact, do I have the chart? Do I have a wind thing? Flip through my books and manuals here real quick. I think I have a wind diagram thing in this book somewhere. This is my Cessna 172 information manual. They include just about every chart known to man in it. I swear to God there was one in here. You guys will let me know if that Cessna lands right. I hear his engine, so he's not far out. Yeah, he just flew by us. There he is. Ah, not too bad, buddy. Nice landing. Does he go around, or is he doing a touch and go, or are you full stop? Here it is, wind components. Okay, he's leaving the runway now. Alrighty.
Traffic, Cessna, November 351, Romeo 8 is clear of the runway.
Okay, so wind components. Wind velocity and direction. Let's see here. Wind's about 10 knots, and its direction off the runway is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 65. I'll say 60 degrees at 10 knots. That gives us a headwind component of 5 knots and a tailwind component of around about 10 knots. Or crosswind component of 10 knots. So we have a 5-knot headwind and a 10-knot crosswind for this takeoff today. So, yeah, you do the math on that one. Alright, so we are ready to go.
Element traffic, Cessna, November 906 Charlie Sierra, taking off runway 15.
There is a Piper Cub taxiing out behind us. He's going to cause problems, I can already tell. Alrighty, so we've talked altitudes. We'll be making a left-hand traffic pattern. That's something else we need to cover. Most traffic patterns are going to be to the left because that's the standard turn, left hand. We make left-hand turns. But occasionally you might need to make a right pattern, or maybe the field requires a right pattern. It varies, but the pattern direction will be published. And if there's air traffic control, he will tell you which one to fly. Alrighty. So we want to maintain VY until 700 feet on the altimeter, which is 500 feet above the field. And VY is the best rate of climb. The best climb rate for a given distance across the ground. Alright, there is 500 feet above the field elevation. At this point I'm going to pause and we want to look behind the aircraft now. And we want to be on the extended center line of the runway, and yes, we pretty much are. We are actually still pretty good on the runway right now. Alrighty. Okay, so while maintaining VY, I'm going to make a turn to the left. No more than 30 degrees of bank in the pattern. Alright, no more, no less. Well, you can go less, but... Alright, there's 700 feet safety altitude. So if our engine died right now, do you think we could make it back to the runway? We probably could. So there's 700 feet safety altitude. Alright, we'll turn on to the crosswind leg for a little bit. And I like to hold crosswind until we are 100 feet from traffic pattern altitude, which we are right now. You don't want to be on crosswind too terribly long. So we'll start our turn onto downwind now. And we are leveling off. We bring the power back to 2200 or 2100 or whatever you prefer. I'll use 2200. I'm going to overshoot the downwind heading a bit so we have a crosswind correction. Alright, so we have a good crosswind correction angle. I'm going to pause. Okay, so we are on the downwind now, and we are at traffic pattern altitude. We are also about midfield. So you can see how fast the pattern goes. It goes pretty quick. I've seen a lot of tutorials in Flight Sim that say standard rate turns at 500 feet turn, 1,000 feet turn. No, you don't do this. The pattern does not take long to do. It is very quick, especially in these smaller planes like this. Very quick to do. So we have a good picture right here. We want to see the runway roughly halfway up the landing strut, or the wing strut. So if we were flying a towered airfield, they normally ask us to report when we are midfield. Right about now is when we would be telling the tower that we were midfield. But since we're flying non-towered, now I'm going to make my downwind traffic call.
All November 1217 Alpha is 11 miles east inbound visual, runway 28. Alpha traffic says that November 906 Charlie Sierra is on downwind, runway 15.
So our next thing to be worried about is when to start our descent. Okay, I'm paused again. We need a landing point or a fixed aim point. We'll use the runway numbers for this. So once we are beam that landing point is when we want to start our descent. Okay, we are beam our aim point now. Again, our aim point is the numbers. There is an aircraft on the runway, but he is taking off now, so he shouldn't be a factor. I don't see anyone else coming in, and I haven't heard anyone else on the radio. Okay, so now we're going to throttle back. I've climbed a bit. We're going to throttle back to 1500 RPM, pitch down, and set the flaps to 10. So we're starting our descent for landing. Turn this way. I'll let my crosswind correction out. Yeah, you gotta work with the wind. The wind's pretty strong today, so I'm having to fly off the extended headings. Okay, so now we're just gonna reverse our altitudes, and this is a good way to get into the pattern. Now, in real life, you have the advantage of being able to turn your head and look. A lot of us don't have that advantage in Flight Sim unless you have the Oculus Rift or a Track IR or something. What we want to do is we want to start our turn onto the base leg when the aim point is 45 degrees off of where we're sitting. So if we turn and look back, that's about 45 degrees, if not close enough that I'm going to say it's 45 degrees. And if we did our descent correctly, which we were a little high when we started it, but we should be coming on that 45 degree mark right about the time we're 700 feet above the field, and we are. Look at that. Alright, so I'm going to start our turn onto base. I'm going to make our base call.
Alpha traffic says that November 906 Charlie Sierra is on base, runway 15.
And I'm going to set flaps to 20 because we're inside top of the wide arc. Alrighty, there is 500 feet above the field. Now we want to be on the base heading by the time we hit 500 feet or close to it, and we are. There's base heading. I'll turn wings level. We're just below 500 feet. And you can see we're keeping close to the runway. We can start our turn to final now. Oops, I leveled off a bit. Getting too slow, way too slow. Okay, so that wasn't too terribly bad other than the fact I got too slow. And the wind is going to push me off, so I need to correct for that. Alright, as we get back onto the glide slope from that bit of a screw up of mine. Okay, we don't want to set landing flaps until the runway is made, or the field is made, and it's not made yet. Watch these trees.
4-2, traffic, all November 1217 Alpha, just 7 miles east inbound visual, runway 28.
Okay, come in 65 knots, the field is made, flaps full. Alrighty, let's watch me destroy this airplane in the landing. Look at that crosswind, Jesus. Someone else is taxiing out. There we go, flaps up. Bit of a crosswind correction in. Throttle full. Crosswind landings, the plane does tend to be squirrely. It's crosswind. Okay, there's 60. We'll rotate. That wasn't too terribly bad if I do say so myself. Alright, so like we mentioned earlier, there are other landings we can do. That was a touch and go. Let's do a stop and go next time. Now, in real life, you would be practicing.
Traffic Piper, November 565 Romeo Lima, taking off runway 15 south departure.
In real life, you'd use the traffic pattern to practice various types of landings. So you would do short field takeoffs and landings with touch and goes and stuff like that. Since the winds are the way they are today, we'll just do normal landings. Alright, so as we come back in, okay, this time we will do a stop and go.
Traffic, all November 1217 Alpha, 5 miles east inbound visual, runway 28.
Alrighty, there we go. Nice crosswind correction angle. Alrighty, so we're in a good spot here. Now this time I'm going to try to avoid using external views if I can help it. So you can see what this looks like when we actually fly it correctly. I'm hands off right now, by the way. The airplane's trimmed pretty much. I'm adjusting the trim a bit, but okay, that airplane has taken off. We are abeam our landing point. And we've climbed again. I'm actually going to bring the power all the way out to help us descend a little faster.
Alma traffic says that November 906 Charlie Sierra is on base, runway 15.
Flaps 20. Alright, final was clear and the runway was clear. And we are on final.
Alma traffic says that November 906 Charlie Sierra is on final, runway 15.
Look at that. Perfect. Perfect line up there. Just a little high. Alright, we're high, so I'm going to dump the flaps. Flaps are full. I wonder if those two Pipers were flying together. It might be a two-ship flight and they just can't catch up.
2, traffic, mall, November 1217 Alpha is 2 miles east inbound visual, runway 28.
Alrighty, so we're going to do a stop and go this time. We don't want to eat up too much of the runway on the flare when we're doing a stop and go. Which I'm going to because I'm coming in way too fast. Ooh, all threes. Okay. Flaps up. We want to come to a complete stop. Alright, complete stop. Flaps 10. We'll do a short field takeoff. Hold the throttle. Crosswind corrections in. Gauges look good. Release the brakes. Alright, this will be a short field takeoff. VX until clear the obstacle. There's 100 feet above field elevation. Clear the obstacle. Pitch for VY. Oh, I'm a little off the runway. There's VY. Flaps up. Coming up on 500 feet. Pause, and I know I'm off the extended center line. Not too bad. Yeah, I got the wind blew me off a bit. Alright, so we'll make our turn onto crosswind now. Now, there's a few things I need to talk about with the radio calls. Since you're pretty busy during the climb out, you don't really need to worry about making your upwind, crosswind calls. You do need to make downwind, base, and calls like that. Whoa, way too much bank. So you do need to make radio calls. The calls you need to make are downwind, base, final, and maybe a short final call if need be. And you want to keep, even if you aren't flying online and you're flying with default ATC, you still need to tune the radios if your AI traffic's turned on because, you know, why wouldn't you? You need to hear what these other planes are doing. So far I haven't heard anyone else coming in or taking off. Alright, so we're going to talk a little bit more. We'll be a full stop and we'll exit the runway this time, so we're calling it for the day, I guess. Alright, so here's a good picture, aside from our crosswind heading that we have to have due to the winds right now. So we're midfield, we'll make our downwind call.
Traffic says that November 906 Charlie Sierra is on downwind, runway 15.
We're beamed the touchdown point that we want, so we'll throttle out. I'm actually going to do something a little extra. I'm going to bring throttle out completely. I'm going to pitch up to slow down a bit. And now I'm going to dump the flaps. Now this is a commercial pilot maneuver, and I've never been able to nail this. But you want to use pitch to maintain your speed and energy management throughout the final approach. So we're on base leg now. I'll make our base call.
Alma traffic says that November 906 Charlie Sierra is on base, runway 15.
So combining everything you know, you don't want to touch the throttle or the flaps. We'll use side slips and pitch.
0 is 11 miles northwest, inbound visual, runway 15.
To bring us into the runway safely. And this is This is extra hard with that crosswind. So now we are on final.
Alma traffic set.
Now I want to stop for a second. There is a common misconception in Flight Simulator of what short final is. Short final is not a real thing. Technically, it's not part of the pattern. It's something that pilots say they are on. Because a final could be anywhere from the threshold to a mile or two out, depending on if you're doing an instrument approach or not. But short final is very close to the runway. I've seen this on VATSIM and probably on Iveo too, if I ever flew on there again. But a pilot will call short final on VATSIM, and he'll still be like 5 miles out. That's not short final, guys. That's barely even a final. That's not even final by an instrument approach standard. Short final is the last. Most pilots consider it the last mile of final. I consider it the last half mile of final. So if I go into top-down view, the last half mile from the threshold is about right here, somewhere between these railroad tracks and this little road here. That, from there to there, is short final. The reason we call that short final is you're telling anyone who's on the runway still that you need to get off and tell me you're off, or I have to go around. One or the other. Alright, so we're going to continue our crazy maneuver.
Sierra is on final. Runway 15, touch and go. Left traffic.
As we come in, that wasn't too terribly bad. This is a commercial pilot maneuver where you dump the throttle in the flaps and you use your pitch the whole way down. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. It's called wrecking the frickin' airplane if you're me. Put the crosswind correction in. Alright, so we will exit the runway now. And we'll let everyone know we are clear of the runway.
Alma traffic Cessna November 906 Charlie Sierra is clear of the runway.
Alright, so lights off, transponder on, flaps are up, mixture is out for ground. We'll open up the window. Which way is that Piper going? I hate tail draggers with the FSX AI engine, especially the Piper Cub. Alright, so that was flying the traffic pattern. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope you learned something. So we will see you next time.